My mother opened 47 bank accounts using my 5-year-old daughter's name. When I found out, the debt was already over $300,000. And the worst part? The police knocked on my door thinking I was the criminal. I always thought I knew my mother. I grew up watching her work hard, take care of the family, do everything so we could have a better life. I never imagined that the woman who taught me the difference between right and wrong would be capable of using my daughter, an innocent 5-year-old child, as a tool for financial crimes. It all started on a regular Tuesday. I had just picked up Sophia from school when I got a call from the bank. The attendant was polite but direct. She said they needed to confirm some suspicious transactions on my daughter's account. I froze. What account? Sophia is 5 years old. She can barely write her own name. I hung up thinking it was a system error. I called another bank just to be sure. Same story. Then another and another. In total, 7 different banks were calling me on the same day, all talking about accounts, loans, credit cards in the name of Sofia Mendez Costa. My heart raced. I picked up Sophia, locked the doors, and started researching. I went to the Federal Revenue Service the next day. What I discovered made me throw up in the public building's bathroom. My 5-year-old daughter had an active tax ID since she was born. That's normal. What wasn't normal was having 47 bank accounts opened in 17 different financial institutions. There was a history of buying and selling vehicles, international transfers, cryptocurrency investments. A child who still watched Peppa Pig had a more active financial history than mine. I sat on the cold floor of that hallway and cried. Who would do this? Who would have access to Sophia's documents? Her birth certificate was kept in my house, in a file that only my husband and I accessed, or at least that's what I thought. I went home and searched through everything. The document folder was there, but when I opened it, I noticed there were extra copies of Sophia's birth certificate, copies I hadn't made, and that's when it clicked. Only one person had free access to my house when I wasn't there, one person I blindly trusted to take care of Sophia while I worked, my mother. I confronted her that same night. I took the bank printouts, the statements, everything. I put them on her kitchen table and asked, looking into her eyes, "Mom, do you know anything about this?" She didn't even blink. She grabbed her coffee cup, took a sip, and said in the calmest voice in the world, "You wouldn't understand anyway. This is adult stuff." I lost my breath. I waited for her to deny it. I waited for her to yell at me for accusing her of something so horrible. But no, she admitted it. Not with direct words, but with that heavy silence and that cold look that said everything. I discovered in the following days that my mother had been involved in a money laundering scheme for over 3 years. She worked as an intermediary. She took dirty money from corrupt businessmen and small-time politicians in our city and cleaned it through ghost accounts. She used children's identities because it was harder to trace. Children don't check bank statements. Children don't go to the bank. Children trust the adults who take care of them. And my mother took advantage of that in the worst possible way. She didn't just use Sophia. Investigating further, with the help of a lawyer, we discovered that she had done the same with 6 other children in the family, young cousins, friends' children, even the neighbor's son. All the children were between 3 and 7 years old. All had accounts opened without the parents knowing. The worst was yet to come. 2 weeks after my discovery, the police showed up at my door at 6 in the morning. There were 4 police officers. They had a search and seizure warrant. They thought I was responsible for the scheme. After all, the accounts were in my daughter's name. I was the mother. I had all access to the documents. It seemed obvious to them. They took my computer, my phone. They searched my entire house while Sophia cried on the couch, not understanding what was happening. My husband had to rush out of work. It was humiliating. All the neighbors at the window watching the police leave with cardboard boxes full of our things. I spent 8 hours at the police station, interrogation after interrogation. I had to explain 1,000 times that I didn't know anything, that I found out by accident, that my mother was responsible. But they didn't believe me. How would a mother not know that her own daughter had 47 bank accounts? It did sound like a lie. I understand. The detective finally released me when my lawyer presented the recordings. Yes, I had recorded the conversation with my mother. It wasn't premeditated. My phone was in my pocket recording audio accidentally, but that saved me. In the recording, you could hear my mother admitting that she used Sophia's documents, that she had contacts who needed to move money, that this was normal in the business world. The police finally understood, but the relief was short-lived because now I had a bigger problem. Suing my own mother, turning her into justice, destroying the woman who raised me. The following weeks were the worst of my life. My entire family turned against me. Uncles called me screaming, cousins blocked me on social media. My grandmother, my mother's mother, showed up at my house calling me a traitor, saying I was destroying the family over bank paper. Bank paper, as if they were just numbers on a screen. Nobody understood the severity. Sophia was 5 years old and already had a bad credit score, already had debts that would take her years to clear, already had a criminal record being built without her even knowing how to read. And my family thought I was the problem for not let it go. There was a day I almost gave up, almost called the lawyer and asked to withdraw the complaint, because it's very hard to fight against your own family. It's very hard to be called a traitor by the people you love. But then I looked at Sophia. She was drawing at the table, drawing flowers and butterflies, completely innocent, completely oblivious to the chaos they were making with her future. And I decided, it didn't matter what my family thought. It didn't matter if I was left alone. I was going to protect my daughter, even if it meant putting my own mother in jail. The process was long. We gathered evidence for 4 months. Bank statements, WhatsApp conversations recovered by forensics, witnesses who confirmed that my mother offered them money to open accounts in their young children's names. The scheme was bigger than I imagined. It involved a network of at least 15 people. My mother was an important piece, but not the only one. During this time, she didn't talk to me, not once. She didn't try to explain herself. She didn't apologize. She just stared at me with that look of someone who thinks they're right, as if I was in the wrong. The day of the trial arrived. I entered that courtroom with trembling legs. My mother was on the other side of the room, dressed formally, hair done, upright posture. She looked confident. She looked like she was going to walk out of there without consequences, like she always got out of everything in life. The judge asked for silence. He began reading the charges: money laundering, false identity, improper use of minor's identity, fraud, criminal organization. The list was long. Her defense tried to argue that she was just an intermediary, that she didn't know the origin of the money, that she was being used by more powerful people. But the evidence was too clear. The conversations showed her negotiating amounts, offering financial cleaning services, laughing while explaining how using a child's identity was genius because it didn't raise suspicion. When it was my turn to speak, I almost couldn't. The prosecutor called me as a witness. I went to the stand with my heart beating so hard I thought I was going to faint. The defense attorney, hired by the family itself to defend my mother, looked at me with contempt, as if I was the criminal. He tried to destabilize me, asked if I wasn't ashamed to betray my own mother, if I didn't think about what this would do to the family, if I was sure I wasn't making everything up out of revenge for some own fight. I took a deep breath. I looked at my mother. She stared at me, without emotion, without regret, and I spoke. I told everything, from the first bank call to the moment I discovered the other children involved. I showed photos of Sophia crying when the police raided our house. I read aloud the messages my mother sent to her clients, offering my daughter's identity as if it were merchandise. When I finished, the silence in the courtroom was heavy. Some people were crying. The judge was taking notes with a serious expression. The sentence came 3 weeks later. My mother was sentenced to 8 years in prison in closed regime, plus a fine of $1.5 million, prohibited from having contact with minors for the next 15 years, which included her own granddaughter. She showed nothing when they heard the sentence. She just nodded and was taken away by the police. 8 years have passed since that day. Sophia is 13 now. She knows the story. Not in minute detail, but she knows that her grandmother did something very wrong and used her name for it. She's still cleaning up the consequences, still has restrictions on her tax ID. We still have to explain the whole situation every time she tries to open a savings account or do anything involving documents. But at least she understands that I fought for her, that I chose to protect her future even when it meant losing half my family. Because that's what happened. Half the family never spoke to me again. They call me a traitor to this day. They say I exaggerated, that there was a way to solve it without court, as if there was a right way to solve money laundering and use of a minor's identity. The other half understood. My husband stood by me from the first moment. My father, who divorced my mother years earlier, supported me completely. Some cousins also understood the severity and distanced themselves from my mother. She got out of prison last year. She served 6 years and had her sentence reduced for good behavior. She tried to reach out to me once, sent a letter asking to talk, saying she wanted to explain her side of the story. I didn't respond. There's no side that justifies what she did. There's no explanation that erases the trauma Sophia carries to this day. My daughter is afraid of police officers. She's afraid of people knocking on the door. She wakes up in the middle of the night sometimes remembering that day when our house was searched. Looking back, I would do it all again. Every painful decision, every moment I cried alone while my family attacked me, every second of that horrible trial, because in the end, the only thing that matters is that I protected my daughter. There are people who ask me if I don't miss my mother, if I don't regret exaggerating. The answer is simple. I don't miss who she became. I miss the mother I thought I had, the woman I idealized in my head, but that woman never really existed. The real woman was capable of looking at her own 5-year-old granddaughter and seeing only an opportunity, a clean tax ID that could be exploited, a child who trusted too much to realize she was being used. And when you understand that, when you really absorb that the person who raised you is capable of doing something so cruel, there's no room for regret. There's only the certainty that you did the right thing. Sophia is growing up strong. She's learning that family isn't about blood. It's about who stays by your side when everything falls apart. It's about who protects you even when the whole world judges you. And if there's one thing I want her to take through life, it's this. Never, under any circumstances, let anyone use you. It doesn't matter who that person is. It doesn't matter how many years of history you have together. The moment someone crosses the line and turns you into a tool for their own benefit, you have every right and the duty to walk away and protect yourself, even if that person is your own mother. Because at the end of the day, my job as a mother isn't to be everyone's friend. It's not to keep family peace at any cost. My job is to ensure that my daughter grows up safe, protected, and with a clean future ahead. And that's exactly what I did. My mother's legacy was destroyed. She who built a reputation over 50 years of life, she who was seen as a hardworking woman, dedicated mother, loving grandmother, all of that crumbled. Today, when you search her name on Google, the news of the trial appears, the conviction, the money laundering scheme. She lost everything: her freedom, respect, family, dignity, and I have no pity. Because she chose this path. Nobody forced her to use innocent children in financial crimes. It was her choice, and every choice has consequences. Her consequence was losing her daughter and granddaughter forever. Her consequence was ending life as a convicted criminal. Her consequence was dying, because she's already 68 years old and in terrible health, knowing that her own family turned her over to justice. And you know what? I sleep peacefully every night, because when I look at Sophia, I see a girl who still has a chance at a future, a girl whose name, even though marked, is being cleaned little by little, a girl who knows that her mother is capable of anything to protect her. That's worth more than any blood ties. That's worth more than any false family peace. That's worth everything. If you want to hear more stories like this, subscribe to the channel.